Yo, what's up, Eric? It's all good. Catch me up on replay if you need. I am just. It's just me tonight, guys. We are hunters out on duty doing the filming things. So it's just me, and I got back from Seattle, Oregon area a couple days ago. I was I was thinking about trying to do a stream last week on hotel Wi-Fi, but I ended up getting sick anyways, and it's bad Wi-Fi and not being able to talk. It didn't really work out. So I'm kind of gonna use this stream as like a little little catch-up stream from FD Seattle, which there are some opinions I got on that event. A very interesting event, to say the least. And then we can look at Utah as well because they just dropped the different brackets. So what screen did I want to start on? I guess we can start with Utah here in a sec. I just want to make sure we're looking good on the old YouTubes. Let some people jump in here for a quick sec. We have also have some exciting stuff coming over in Utah as far as the filming side goes. So excited to show you guys that stuff. I don't have any. There are no concrete plans yet, but there will be some extra streams that we're going to be doing throughout the weekend, and I think a special one at the end. So I think it's going to be a fun little hangout that we're going to be. The goal is to try and get you guys a little bit more info throughout the weekend on what things are going on, how people have like reacted from the event, or how things are going for teams specifically and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be a busy weekend, but I think it's going to be a fun one. So definitely excited to share that with you guys. It's going to be a good time. Alrighty. Dang, we already got 18 people in here. Good to see everyone. Since it's just me, would love the interaction from you guys, and any questions or comments you guys have. I mean, the first thing is we're just gonna catch up with Seattle and kind of talk about a couple things, because Seattle was a weird one, man. Weather was amazing, surprisingly, which is another. Like I said, everything that you thought about Seattle was not how Seattle went. It was perfect weather, but the driving was pretty terrible. And what's up, Vision Media? And I'm not sure specifically if it was because so let's start at the beginning. At FD Seattle, the drivers' meeting was kind of heated because let's see if I can pull up some of one of the runs or something. You were not supposed to what's the word? Slow down for outer zone 2. So right here. So you are not supposed to be slowing down in this area, and not until you got to here, I believe, is roughly the kind of the zone that you were kind of supposed to be slowing down at. And I think they might even wanted you to wait until you got into the zone. And like, apparently that's a big change from last year, where there was a slowdown up on the wall kind of that drivers could use. So there was a bunch of commotion about that kind of stuff, because in the reality of Seattle is in the years past, that's always been the collision point is back there. So one of the challenges with Seattle is trying to get just a good way for both cars to slow down, because they are slowing down from going so fast, because Seattle is such a fast first corner. Where's my cursor? There it is. Yeah, so like right about here, you can see like cars waver, and you see, for example, Odie on this run slows down and chokes up Brandon, just as an example. So, so it's kind of it's a tricky track, but in general, I mean, I saw probably more broken things just from the cars than I have seen in probably a long time from events. Broken engines, broken superchargers, people throwing belts. Like it was one of the worst mechanical events I've seen in a long time. And you know, just for example, like I know Stuckey swapped an engine. Madison swapped a blower. I know Robbins was having belt issues. And the RTR cars were having all kinds of issues. I'm gonna talk a little bit about that too. Um, and then also the just and then we would see the lead car like kind of just dip out of the lead right in this position as well in practice and stuff a lot of the time. And I'm not exactly sure why that was, but it just seemed like everyone was kind of having issues. And then there's a wall, obviously, so there were a couple big hits. Forrest Wang hit the wall. Obviously, Ben Hobson hit the wall pretty good, and a couple other guys hit the wall. I think Andy hit the wall and whatnot. So power. So it was a pretty carnage track. Like there was a ton of carnage there. So hopefully everyone is getting their cars back together and fixed for Utah, because it was a pretty rough weekend for a lot of guys. Um, but you know, obviously, we had. Let me go back to this screen. Obviously, had a weird final. Minoa with the break, breaking on the line. I understood it was something to do with some connections with the ECU were not properly like tied down or connected, and it was disconnecting whenever like weight would shift in the car, and they didn't figure out the issue until after the 5 minutes. So that's why his car kept shutting off whenever he was driving randomly. Um, so that was kind of a sad way to see that end. Um, but that also brings me up another point of his driving and stuff. And I've actually talked to a couple drivers about it, and it seems to be not not a favorite of someone's to chase. And so that's another fun topic. But I guess we can start with the weekend and start with the seating bracket. Mike Power getting some wins under his belt. I think that's good for him. It's unfortunate how his practice ended the next day with putting it into the wall and not being able to fix it. It was kind of a weird crash. I didn't really have a good angle of it, but he was on initiation. Looked like he went too deep, caught the back end of the car, and kind of nosed in towards the wall. And then Field, who was behind him, probably I think tried to avoid him and drive down the bank, but caught the front end of the car with his back left when he went past him because he was chasing. And I think he did a bunch of damage doing that, unfortunately. So kind of just a crappy situation because Powers in practice was actually looking pretty solid. Um, but obviously the big story out of this, I believe, was uh, Ben Hobson obviously not competing due to his crash. It's just something kind of weird on it. Obviously from my angle it didn't look too crazy, but I'm not gonna pretend I know what he's going through or feeling. But one kind of just weird caveat, I think he made like 5 or 6 runs, didn't finish one of them due to car issues, it looked like. So it's kind of interesting that, he hits the wall hard, and, the car he was driving was not okay for the first 5 or 6 runs that he drove before that. So I'm sure not having a working car um, doesn't help the situation of him wanting to drive for the weekends. So I'm hoping that they finally are figuring something out. But we'll get to Utah here in a second, uh, because that's not going to be easy. All right, let me just quick grab some quick chat questions. As media for FD, how do you like the access you have? I did media for Prospect at the time for a while and loved it. Curious how it's changed. I would say media has gotten a bit stricter um, with locations in most tracks, which is kind of unfortunate. But I mean, it's still super fun. I mean, the driving's amazing to shoot. You can be creative, and there's always good ways to shoot at different places. Um, and I love shooting it. It's a great time, and obviously, doing the live stream out there is an amazing time as well. Um, yeah. So, why isn't the drivers' meeting allowed to be seen in the pie of the public? Okay, Frost. So I would assume just from because not even media. Sorry, guys. Um, Still, you know, getting better from whatever I had last week. You know, perks of traveling, you get sick and stuff. Um, but the reason I don't think because media is not even allowed to film drivers meetings. And I would assume main thing is liability. Someone says something, they don't want to be liable for it. I don't know exactly what that would be, but let's say someone's complaining about someone breaking, and then they go do a live stream or something, and I don't know, maybe you don't have to be held accountable as much or something. It's just one of those things where I don't know if the conversation and would be helpful for drifting if that was public stuff because I'm sure things can get clipped out of there out of context that are not gonna benefit anyone, if that makes sense. Especially if like a driver's arguing for a certain perspective before the actual round, and let's say they don't go with that perspective for the round, but it was still said at the beginning. Maybe someone would post that and be like, "Hey, this is how they said it was supposed to be," but maybe they changed it, and you don't know that. So there's a bunch of different reasons why you wouldn't ever, I guess, publicize that. Um, and I would assume that's one of them. Uh, and then the drivers meeting. I mean, media. Like I said, media is not really even allowed to be in it either. So it's more of just a conversation between the drivers and the spotters and the judges to really iron things out, and it's for those guys. So moving into the actual competition, I think it was a weird competition. My pick to win was Dylan Hughes. Unfortunately, he broke an axle. I think it was top 32, wasn't it? Where is he? He's somewhere. Yeah. Yeah. Against Alec Robbins. So that was a big bummer because he was probably looking the best in practice, honestly. But this track just seems to be the challenge that everyone was struggling with, and it's weird. It's a track where a lot of weird stuff can happen. We had James Dean, Connor Shanahan, and Osbo all lose in top 16. And in like that's not common, and it's just crazy. I mean, obviously, some of those were car issues, but some of them were just honest mistakes. It looked like Dean was an honest mistake. And I think Oswald was too. So it's just one of those tracks where if you don't do it right, it can really bite you. Another guy that I thought was highlighted pretty good during the weekend was Adam LZ. He was driving pretty decent all weekend. I know he was overshooting that zone a lot, but he was one of the few guys that was trying not to break at all before getting to that zone, and he was able to get it done correctly a couple times, which was pretty impressive. Because one of the few guys that could do it was Denofa last year. So we know you guys it's possible, but it's extremely difficult to do to not slow down before you get to outer. That's outer two, yeah. And just using the angle to basically slow the car. Um, and then so yeah, we kind of had a weird Final Four. Jeff Jones, heck of a drive, man. Hats off to Jeff. He was pushing hard all weekend, and it's good to see him in the Final Four. Obviously, LZ Manoa, interesting battle, um, and and then obviously in the finals Turk wins because Manoa breaks. But I just wanted to kind of bring something up, and this is stuff I think I've discussed in the past. Is Manoa's driving's very different for compared to a lot of like American driving. And the fact that his throttle never seems to be consistent. It's always feathering instead of just putting his foot down, which a lot of American drivers you'll see do. Um, just the way they set the car up, they make it so that all they have to do is press the foot to the floor basically. Um, and then they got the right wheel speed, and that's the way they like to drive. As per Manoa, he's just the way he drives. It seems to be, in my opinion, somewhat inconsistent from a speed side of it, and he's definitely slower. And I talked to a couple of drivers about it, and they're telling me it's a lot of, well, it's two things. One, it's the sim and just some stuff he's learned from the sim that he's brought into the real world, and it's not the easiest way for everyone else to follow. Just because from the way I was explained was like you set your car up for a certain way, this for a certain speed that the car goes, or the driver that you're going against. And so either you set up your car up super loose to chase him, and then you don't get a bound up as well. But then when you're in the lead, he's just on your door, and it's not like there's no way that you can like try and get away. Or you set your car up super fast and try to drive as fast as you can, like how you normally would with against everyone else, and then try to make it work in the chase even though you have the faster car. And it's just a tough scenario for a lot of the drivers to kind of figure out how to deal with him. I know I talked to a couple of drivers that have chased him and stuff, and they're personally not big fans of just the way that the driving style, and the fact that they have to probably change some things to try to really chase him. And it's also a little bit of a Japanese style as well, but it's an interesting thing that I'm curious to see if judges will start punishing at some point. Just the way Manoa drives, the fact that he's not like a consistent throttle. Um, and you can hear it every time he goes around any major corner. It's not, there's no down. It's always like this, and then obviously he's always got the foot on the brake as well. But he makes it look good, and that's the challenging bit. He might be 2 seconds, 3 seconds slower on a course, but he's also hitting all the zones. So it's like, what are you going to do? Because the funny thing is when he does chase, he does put his foot down because he's able to stick with people just fine. So it's a tough situation for a lot of the drivers, and I'm curious to see whether maybe next year if some things will be made judging wise to kind of call some of it out, or because I know a lot of the drivers are not so excited about his driving personally. Nothing against the guy, obviously. He's a great kid. And obviously this is how he's learned to drive. So it's just one of those things of like, is that the kind of driving you want in the future, in FT? Or do you want, for example, someone to be full throttle and they're going to be full throttle throughout an entire corner so that you can confidently chase them as close as possible and not having to lift and stuff because the guy is kind of, throttling his way up to a certain spot and using the left foot brake and that kind of other tools that kind of slow the car down, making it a little bit more difficult, and you can't trust the guy as well in front as much. So I'm curious to see if there's anything that comes from that. Obviously, thanks, Canadian Gamer. Here we go. $5 from Canadian Gamer. I appreciate it. Cheers, mate. Love to see some Canadians in here as well. You guys are awesome. Yeah, so in one of Odie's runs against Ryan that caused a collision, yeah, that's true. It seemed Odie came with a lot of speed and he was trying to brake and he had too much momentum. Yeah, so and the big thing with Seattle is it's all about momentum coming into outer two. I can just we'll just play some of the video in the background. Um, but yeah, you'll see guys overshooting that the entire, event. It's a, and that was the whole debate in the drivers meeting. So I knew it was going to be a problem throughout the event. And it usually is every year. It's just usually they have a braking zone that kind of prevents it from being so bad. So like usually they're braking right here or around this area in previous years. This year they're not supposed to be doing that, and that causes the issue of them now they're overshooting this corner, trying not to, because they're trying not to slow down or make it look good at least before they get to that zone, because then you're allowed to slow down here when you transition into this zone. um, but it's drivers are telling me it's probably the hardest technical track because of the speed variance and how fast you're going, and the visual cues aren't great either. I don't know if you guys saw, but FD puts up. Let's see. You cannot see. Okay. You see these things right here? The right above them are these markers, basically, so that drivers can see them coming down the hill, that where the zone is. But even that's not a great eye catcher for them. That's another huge challenge. Is just the visual side of it is always always a challenge with this track as well when it comes to this zone. But yeah, if you guys have any more questions on Seattle, go ahead and throw those in the chat, and I'm probably gonna move on to Utah because that's why you guys clicked on this, was Utah. So Utah is big because it's the last pro spec round. So let's pop in our pro spec standings real quick. There they are. So Prospect is really a battle between Connor O'Sullivan and Tommy Loire for first place. These guys are within 2 points, so really whoever gets higher in any sort of standings is going to win. Pretty sure all of the places have more than 2 points separating them. So whoever gets higher between Connor and Tommy, that's who's going to win. And if we want to check the bracket, just to verify, Connor's on this side, and where is Tommy? Tommy's on this side. So if they either one of these guys gets knocked out before one another in each one of the rounds, then they've won the championship. There's no way for really anyone else to kind of hop in and try and make it at this point. Here we go. And then the battle is really, so the way, just if you guys didn't know, the way FD works in ProSpec, the top 3 drivers get licenses. So the battle for this third place spot's going to be really hot. Because we have only a couple points we set like between these 4 drivers. So they're all going to be gunning for that third spot. Obviously, you got Austin Mata and Cody Buchanan, who are actually really good friends from same area of the country, I believe, and it'll be a fun battle for those guys. You got Nate Chen and you got Josh Love. Obviously, Josh Love has been in Pro 1 before, so he's he's kind of expected to be up here as well. So he's a great driver, and then you got Nate Chen, who's been up in the previous years in the pack before, so not a surprise to see him up here, but he's really been pushing. Another guy that would love to drive pro next year, so I think it's going to be a pretty fantastic battle for this third spot. So we'll check out. Actually, why don't we do that right now? We'll check out quick their bracket. So you got Osterman up here, and you got Nate Chen. So these guys are in their same bracket. So let's say they meet each other in top 8. That'll be a good story to watch. And then we got, where's Love? Is Love in the seeding bracket? Oh, would you look at that? Love is in seeding bracket, so Love's got to get through the seeding bracket first, and then we'll see who he runs up against. So a little bit more of a challenge for Love, and then we'll get into these in a second here. And then, who is the last person I said? It was, who was the third? Nate Chen. Oh, Cody. That's right. See, and Cody is down here in the bottom. So Cody is kind of in his own bracket on the other side, and assuming who knows where Love ends up. But so keep an eye on those guys. This event's going to be a really big deal for those guys as well. Trying to get their pro license. I know most of those guys are going to want to go pro as well next year. So just something to keep an eye out when you're watching the competition for next round. A couple questions in the chat. Right. So, what's one of the happens if one hit hero in the chase because he's slower? So Brief Machine. So when you hit someone in the lead, it really depends on the situation of who's at fault. If you are slowing, for example, if you are slowing down in an area you're not supposed to be slowing down in, then the lead driver will be at fault. One of the ways that they look at that is on the windshield. They have what's momentum lights, basically, that change colors depending if they're going forward or accelerating or decelerating. And those are ways that they use to kind of see whether or not people are checking up on guys and whatnot. It's not a perfect scenario, obviously. And one of the unique challenges with Hero, for example, is he's still accelerating. It's just slower than everyone else. So, and your momentum lights are not going to tell a difference between if someone's accelerating at a certain speed versus someone else is accelerating at a higher speed. Momentum lights don't help you with that. And again, and the other question is, how do you enforce that? So there's a couple questions when it comes to the judging side of like, how would you actually, distinguish that style or that speed difference? What's up, Akurd? We got then we got Frosty Feed in here. What's up? Speaking of drivers jumping from pro to prospect, do you think any of the prospect drivers should perfect their skills and experience before going pro? And well, Frosty Feed, here's the challenge. So I'll tell you from a couple different perspectives. Yes, I think all of the guys pretty much would do great at tuning their skills and prospect, but the problem also is, in order to be a better driver, you also need to be driving with better drivers as well. And so, which means the jump to pro is a very attractive way to try and get better. You also remember you're only driving 4 rounds a year, so it's only, instead of practicing 4 times against this competition in pro, you're practicing 8 times against this level of even higher level of competition. So if you want to get better, it makes sense to go do pro. You just have to have expectations. You're not winning every battle. Unless you're like James Dean. So there's that way of looking at it. You also have to remember from the marketing side, and if you want any companies really to work with you, you're going to want to run Pro 1. Just from a visibility standpoint, it's astronomically more than running ProSpec. You get way more visibility and theoretically marketing dollars if you run Pro 1. So there's a big reason why you would want to jump to Pro as well. So yes, you can always practice more and always try and get better in ProSpec, but the reality is if you want to actually really improve, you really need to jump to the big boys, you know. And the thing is like all the guys that I mentioned in the top here, they can all drive with the pro drivers, and I'm not just saying that they're going to be winning battles and stuff all the time, but they're not going to be major hindrances either. And like even the guys that have jumped from pro to prospect this year, it's not like they're out there, getting top eights and doing crazy good or anything, but they're getting better. They're getting this the taxing of the schedule and getting through all those expenses and all of that. What goes in taking all of the what's the word? All of the trials and tribulations of going to an 8-round full nationwide series. So there's so much more to just driving as well when it comes to driving pro. So like when you do it, especially your rookie season, it's always going to be it's like you watch a lot of rookie prospect guys even struggle because they're just not used to the costs, the consumables, and the wear and tear in the car and the wear and tear in the people. So it's like it's just another step up from pro spec, and it's going to take them a year or two to really get their feet wet and planted before they start making some serious progress. And you see that a lot of the time with pro spec drivers that jump to pro. So from my perspective, it makes a lot of sense if you have the financial ability to do it. If this is a sport that you want to continue with for the long term, um, and that's just how it is. Um, we got a couple other things. We got $2 from Breathe Machine Pondur. Thank you. As well, I appreciate the super chat. Great seeing everyone here again as always in the chat. You guys are freaking awesome. I can't wait to show you guys what we're doing in Utah. I'm hoping at least one, if not two, extra streams for Utah. And then we are going to have an extended stream at the end of Utah as well, with a little surprise for you guys at the end there. So I'm pretty excited for that. It's going to be a good time. Utah kind of came together so that I'm going to be working with a couple extra people this time. And maybe maybe working on some stuff for the future, for next year. And because there's opportunity here, and it's one of the things that this year I've really pondered on how much work, time, and effort I should be trying to put into this, because this is not my day job, obviously, but you guys have had such great support this year and have come out and watched and hung out with Herbie and I, and it really shows that there's opportunity here in a market, and you guys want it. You guys want interviews. You guys want the info that's coming out as it's happening. There's a market for practice and seeing how guys are doing throughout the weekend, and so there's an opportunity here. So for me, it's now ironing out details and trying to figure out how we can better basically just present the event. And so this weekend will be next weekend in Utah will be a little trial run and some things that I'm hoping to possibly do for next season, and I'm pretty pumped on it, honestly. And I hope you guys are gonna enjoy it. We got Ciro. Nice to see Ciro in the chat. I heard the cost thing is big as well for if they decide to move to pro, even if they got their license. Tommy said that in the podcast with Jacob. He said he's unsure if he'd go pro just due to costs, and that's the thing. That is always the big kicker with pro, is the cost of jumping to it. So but in my opinion, if you have the money, I think you should do it. Breathe Machine says, I hope Utah is as fast as Riga. So funny thing you say that. So Utah, it looks like they're changing the layout slightly, and it's kind of a subtle change, but it's a big change. So They're not doing the crazy run up like they used to with like the 100+ mile an hour run up they were doing the last couple of years. What's up, Malik? Um, they're doing a shorter run up, and then they're running that first zone past the whatever strip that's there. It's not a rumble strip, but it's like the red and white strip on the track. I don't know what you technically call that because it's not a rumble strip because they can drive over it. But they're going past that and past that in the corner, so it's a deeper corner, but it's a shorter run up, so they're not going as fast. And I think they're trying to make it a little bit more flowy, and in an attempt to kind of create better tandems, because one of the issues of entering at 100 miles an hour and slowing down to make that first corner is it's kind of difficult to do that without hitting the guy in front of you if you don't time it just perfectly. And we were seeing a lot of that last year where two guys just colliding on entry and then there's the run and it's done. So it's kind of a boring way to watch drifting, if you think about it. So kind of I think what they're trying to do is just make it easier on entry so that we get both cars next to each other in drift, and get them going so that they don't start off on a crappy foot, because if one guy leaves like too much of a gap and they get left on the first corner, then there goes the whole run and it's just super boring to watch. So I'm hoping that the fact that they made entry, it looks like a little easier to do chases on and stuff, that we'll get a better show at Utah, because Utah is really, it's not a faint for the faint of heart. It's even though they're going to slow down the entry, the track itself still a very fast track in general and very flowy. So it'll be interesting to see who benefits from that, really. Good. We got. I don't know how to say your name at all. I just Kurt Odiro Edhe. I absolutely butchered your name, but you make a great point. Matt Field hitting Chelsea and kind of ending Matt Field's attempt at the championship, actually. Last year was when he hit Chelsea on entry. So I think in Syria, you're correct too. Like, I think it's going to promote the good tandems, which is what we want. We want good close tandems. That's why everyone hates on Orlando, but for me, Orlando and like New Jersey, the easiest tracks to drive, also have the most fun tandems of the year, to where they're just on people's doors and you're tapping them the whole way, and it's really exciting to watch, in my opinion. So try to make this track a little bit easier on initiation, I think, is going to benefit it a lot. You're also right. Drift Masters is tomorrow, so I'm excited to check that out. Alrighty. Just a quick question in chat. Do you guys think, gosh, who's the wild card? I just forgot his name off the top of my head. I can see Mad Mike. That's right. Do you guys think Mad Mike's gonna do well in Drift Masters? I'm just curious. What your guys' thoughts are in the chat. All right. So where was I even talking about? I guess we can talk a little bit about more of the standings. Look at that, Amanda Sorensen, 7th. She's got an outside shot. For example, if she wins the event in Utah, she's got an outside shot for a Pro 1 license. That's pretty cool. Justin Chestnut, and so once you get into the 120s, you're starting to get a little far away. It's going to be a little bit more difficult, I think. You'd have to win the event and get really lucky with everyone else for the most part, to get third. But you got Justin Chestnut, Jaden, Cole, Kelsey, Alex Yeager, all in the 120s. Honestly, respectable season from all those people. So a really, really solid year for a lot of those. I know some of them wanted, aspirations for a top 3, but the fact that you're in this range it means it must have at least a decent year. All right, so I guess we can start off in Utah. We can just go over some battles. And yes, Frosted Treat, I believe Mad Mike. Oh no, you're right, Ciro. Mad Mike's doing Poland. He is, so Mad Mike's doing DMC. He's doing Poland, though. Poland is not this weekend, so forget my question. Uh, he's doing it. I mean, you can still answer the question whether or not he's going to do well in Poland, but Poland's tough. But yeah, Mad Mike is going to be doing Poland, which will be pretty cool. I'm curious to see what car he drives or what he brings out there, or if he's driving something else that's not rotary. Hey Grayson, I believe it's top three, is what I was told. I'm sure FD can be a little lenient on things, if they want to be, but I believe it's five, or no, sorry, three. The top three. Um, where was this announced? If you go to Driftmaster's page, it should be one of the posts that they made, that announcing Mad Mike's going to be driving Poland. Malik says, I don't think it finished too high, but for sure sound crazy within the stadium. I agree. It's gonna be cool to see. Honestly, like from my perspective, I think it would be cool to see him qualify at least, and then see what kind of funny he can do in the stadium. Be good to see him in some battles because obviously I don't get to watch practice. Um, but yeah, so I guess we can just start going over some of the battles. You got Dustin Miles getting lucky here with the bye. Uh, and I will say this every time, ProSpec, it's almost it's a harder than Pro in some ways because if you lose your top 32 battle, then you got to go back into the seeding bracket, and it really makes it a tough weekend. And like I said, one of the guys that we're looking at for this weekend to get that third spot for the Pro One bid is Josh Love, and he's got to run through the seeding bracket now because he lost his top 32 battle last round. Let's see, we got a couple more people in the chat. If top three spec winner don't decide to go pro in 2025, is there expiration date on that? If they can go for it in 2026, they would have to get up to the ranks again. So Brandon, I believe how it works is your license lasts for a year, like an extra year. So you don't have to do it the next year, but I think if you think you need to try and jump to pro the year after that though, is the way it works. But the thing is FD makes exceptions to the rules all the time, it seems like to me. Or at least if like they think you're worth or good enough to be pro and or are going to, be able to compete well. They've made exceptions for people in the past, I feel like. So I think for the most part though, yeah, if you get your license and I think you have a year basically to kind of build up funds and then jump in, they'll let you do that. So theoretically, I don't know if Love's license, for example, like if Josh, just for an example, Josh Love obviously has done a year of Pro One. If he wanted to drive Pro One next year, and let's say he didn't finish top three this year, then he finished like sixth or something. I'm curious. What would be curious to know is if he petitioned to be Pro One, if they would let him. I personally think they need more drivers in Pro One. I think having a small little like thing that they do and having a bunch of buy runs is kind of boring. So, which is why I think they should incorporate the wild card system. But that's an entirely different conversation because it's kind of a bummer. Like for example, top eight last or the whatever bracket it's called, seating bracket for pro in Seattle was pretty boring because either people were broke or a lot of them didn't show up, and there was buy runs already. So having a wild card system would be really cool to have, just to add some more drivers into the mix, and make those battles a little bit more interesting. But I don't know if that's ever something that they've considered. So do you think Amanda will get her pro license this season then? I don't think so. I think it'd be pretty hard to. I think you'd have to get lucky. I think she'd have to win the event, and then those people in front of her probably would have to finish below fourth or third for her to get her pro license. So I think it's a very, very outside shot, but not a good one. Definitely seems like Ryan Sage really works with the drivers, and that's the thing is I think right the way FD I think is I think they want the drivers. Um, I think they want the driver more drivers in. It's just one of those things where they kind of have to you go by the rules as much as they can. But yeah, alrighty. So, first battle we're looking at, and it's probably so. This is the biggest seating bracket battle that has implications for like season that I think there is, and that's the Josh Love battle between him and Daniel. Daniel, I think I'm not sure. I think Daniel's had one win this year, but I can't remember. You guys can remind me in the chat if he has or not in the seating bracket. But uh, it's gonna be a hard one for Dan. To be honest, Josh has been driving really good this year, so um, it's kind of his battle to lose at this point. But it's still a battle he needs to win to keep his hopes alive for that third spot. So something to really, you know, that's probably like I said the biggest battle in terms of championship places is going to be that one. And then we got Jace and Alan, and two guys that Alan Boss, and I guess I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. Zoom in a little bit. So then we got Jason Allen, Boss here, and these are two guys I don't believe they have wins in seeding brackets yet. Two guys that I think that could really use some wins. And it'll be interesting to see because obviously one of these guys is going to have to win. So I think it'll be good for either one of them, whoever drives better, to get that win and get into that top 32. All right, and then next we got a Josh Stewart and Zendara Kennedy here. See, I like the way Josh was driving at the beginning of the year. But I think it's just one of those growing pains with the new car or that car. That he's had a couple car issues throughout the year, and then Zendara has just been trying to slowly get better in doing her thing as well. So I think it's gonna be a good battle between those two. You guys can let me know some of you guys' picks on wins here, but I think I'm gonna go with Zendara on this one, just because I've seen steady improvement from her, and should be a good battle though, honestly. And then we got Brandon McDowell and Human, two Turbo LS cars. Two guys that I feel like they drive somewhat similarly. Um, these guys love their wheel speed, it seems like, and love making smoke. So I'm really looking forward to this battle. I think this should be a fun one, honestly. And I don't know who I'd have, honestly. It's gonna be a tough one. I think Brandon's kind of bit himself in the foot a couple times with some of his battles, and Human's like pretty consistent for the most part. He's not the most aggressive driver, but he's consistent. So I think I'm gonna pick Human on this one, but it's a close one, honestly. I like it. All right. Next up, we got. I probably should move my head so my head's not in the way. All right. Next up, we got Alex Licklider, Lewis Lanes. Two guys that I think Lewis has got some wins. I think Alex had a win as well this year. Honestly, it's just one of those. For me, it's one of those battles that is a battle consistency for me. I think I'm gonna have to go with Lewis on this one. Again, solid. The thing with a lot of prospect driving is being the consistent one and being the one that's putting the car where it needs to be, because to me that's the majority of the battle. If you're putting the car where it needs to be and then putting competent chases, like that's just the biggest thing is driving how the judges want. And for me, I think Lewis does that a little bit more than Alex, but again, I guess it's one of those things that we'll see. And then we got Brian Willis and Jack Davis. I've been a big fan of Brian, rookie coming in this year. He's been on fire as far as like just the way that he drives, but had some unfortunate luck in some of his battles. And then Jack Davis, I would consider a veteran at this point, and one of the more consistent drivers in my opinion in the field. So I think that's going to be a pretty sweet battle, honestly. And I'm probably gonna go with Jack Davis just because of the experience here, but I think that's gonna be a fun battle. And excited to see that and how it plays out because I've been impressed with Brian this year. And at the bottom we got down here we sorry guys, um we got Tyler Foley and Sam, and Sam is he has such a cool car, such a crazy engine in that thing, and I mean, it's such a fun car. I really like that car. His driving has been like hit or miss for me this year, though. Some rounds, I think he's just had some car issues here and there, but I think last round he looked solid, and Tyler has his rounds where he really highlights himself, especially I think New Jersey and stuff like that. So it's gonna be an interesting battle. Honestly, I'm not sure who I would go with. Probably I don't know. The two guys that have been around for a similar amount of time, I feel like, too. Um, I'm just gonna go with Tyler on this one, but honestly, that one's a toss up for me. And then up top here we got Farouk. Farouk gets the bye run here. Kind of maybe a little saving grace for blowing up his engine last round and having to miss his battle because of it. So at least he gets a bye run this round. Felt so bad for him in St. Louis. And then next up is gonna be. I'm curious to see how this goes because so Richard Avani was not at the last round, I don't believe, or he was broken. I didn't remember him seeing him drive, and then obviously you got Kelsey. So I'm picking Kelsey because I don't know if Richard's gonna be there or driving. So another one of those where I guess we'll see if Richard shows up, but I'm picking Kelsey on that one. And then we got two guys here, two characters, Ricky and Casey. Um, it's been an up and down year for both these guys, honestly. And for me, I know Casey's gonna have a new engine. And then you got Ricky, with his driving style is always crazy. So I think I'm pretty excited for this battle. Honestly, I think this will be a really fun one. Who would I pick though? It's tough. I think I'm gonna go. If this was New Jersey, I would have picked Ricky, but since it's a bigger course, I'm gonna pick Casey. Don't know why, just feeling it. Just feeling that one. And then next up, we got the Battle of Adams. Adam Heichman in the Mustang, and you got Adam Napick in his gorgeous S14. Might be the best looking pro spec car. I don't know. You guys tell me what your favorite pro spec car is. I think Adam's S14 looks fantastic though. I'm gonna pick Adam Napick on this one. Just for he's been around. Adam Heichman's the rookie. Just from an experience point, he's driven this track before. Going with Adam Napick. Next up we got Dimitri, a guy that you're not really expecting to see in this part of the bracket, but here he is. And it kind of shows you the levels between pro and pro spec aren't as big as you'd think for some of the drivers, to where I guess like you could drive good, but if you're not at if you drive at this level, you're a competent driver in both pro and pro spec, but it takes like a driver to be up here to really, notch your getting consistent top eights and stuff like that. The level between that's like kind of like how would I say this? So the level between the top end of pro spec and even having just a rough event in pro spec is really small to like, for example, the lower end of pro. So it's very, I would consider that interchangeable, which would be an interesting idea. Just I'm just curious if what you guys would think about having like wild card drivers of like the top performing prospect guys to be able to come up to a pro round or two throughout the year to kind of fill out the bracket if they need drivers. I'm just curious what you guys would think, uh, how that would go. For example, let's say Seattle, they needed a driver or two. I gotta go over here. And they're like, hey, these guys, Connor O'Sullivan and Tommy Lemaire, are at the top of the bracket. They're going to have a big battle in Utah. Why do we invite them out to Seattle? Because we need some drivers to fill some buy runs and, get a round of pro practice and compete in pro for a round as like wild cards. I'm just curious, you guys, what would you think of that? What if what if you win a pro spec round, you get a wild card option for a pro round? What if that's like a something that we could do? Because again, I think the current level of car and prospect is somewhat is to a point competitive in pro. I know a lot of the guys that made the switch up didn't change their cars a ton. Andy didn't change his car a ton, and I think Hansen obviously is running pro and prospect with the same car. So I think it's something that you could maybe think about doing, but I think it would give some better incentive, in pro spec as well. Gives the drivers something more than just a little trophy. Gives them an opportunity as well. Maybe a cool idea. Just spitballing here, but I think it'd be kind of cool. Where are we at? All right, so we were talking Dimitri Bystrack. I'm gonna go with Dimitri on this one just because obviously he's a pro driver in pro. He's won the Prospect Series multiple times. Uh, so definitely gonna go with him on this one. And then we got Alex Yeager, Chris Leonard. Chris has actually been driving a lot better this year than he did his first rookie season. He's just one of those things where he's getting more better with the car. But the reality is Alex Yeager. He's a guy that I'm kind of surprised is in this situation. He's a guy that I kind of expect to be in the other bracket most of the time, which he is. So really good driver, really consistent driver. He's gonna be my pick for this round as well. But I think it could be an interesting one. Next up we got Lee and Douglas Stubstad. I think Douglas finally got his 350Z, somewhat solid and working last round. And then Lee's actually coming with a great car all year. Another rookie that I've been impressed with has been Lee. Really solid driver, driving the RB powered BMW. I think I'm gonna pick him just because he's been actually really solid. I think he's had some bad luck in some of his battles as well. Kind of a guy that I think to watch out for in the future of Prospect is going to be Lee. And down here at the bottom, we got Cody Dempster and Clark Hayton. Interesting battle here. Cody, I think, got his first win last event in St. Louis. And then, unfortunately, had a failure of some sort, mechanical. But a guy that I think is getting better acquainted with his car. And then Clark is the kid from Ireland. He's had some car issues as well this year. His car seems to be a little underpowered, and I'm curious to see if he's going to be doing anything for Utah, because Utah, you need power. So for this one, I'm picking Cody just because I know he's got the car to do it. But again, another battle that should be interesting. And that's kind of my thoughts on The Pro Spec seating bracket. We got the Pro Spec actual bracket, and we'll go over that in a second here. Just want to read a couple of your guys' comments here. Um, uh, it's good seeing you here, Frosty Feet. We'll talk to you later, bud. We got Dimitri's been driving his new pro car he's got from ESSA. So funny you say that. He did run his pro car for the first couple rounds. Last round he broke the transmission, so he ended up running the Pro Spec car in Seattle. So again, another guy that's using a Pro Spec car in Pro One that could be. It's just kind of another prudence thing to kind of what I was talking about is, the big change is the tire for those cars. I mean, maybe weight, but like if you put a bigger tire on a Pro Spec car, they'd be probably pretty competitive in Pro. So you got Malik here. I definitely think they would have loved to see O'Sully in the pro seating. I mean, I agree. I think it would be a lot of fun to try and get some of these Pro Spec guys a round or two of pro, just to get some, just get their feet wet, but let's see what else we got here. I don't get the controversy of Hero. He seems super smooth. His leads are probably the most consistent runs, plus 1400 horsepower is hard to be full throttle the whole time. Well, Miro, there's a couple points to that. So he does make it look smooth for the most part, and it's something that you can't really tell from watching it on the live stream, but if you listen to his throttle and the attitude of the car, and at times it's completely different than when someone else is in the lead a lot of the time. And for me it's pretty obvious, just because I watch these cars all the time, that he drives the car much differently than most people. And to be fair, like, it's pretty remarkable how much some of these drivers can stay full throttle with making over 1,000 horsepower. The way that they set these cars up now with the limiters set and the wheel speed perfectly maxed out. I remember I actually talked to Robert Thorne in Seattle. He uses basically an amount of nitrous basically that kind of tapers off when he to keep him on top of a bank but not running into the bank. Like, there's so much science now that these drivers use to kind of keep the car so that all they have to do is literally pin it, and it goes as fast as they need it to wheel speed wise to make it around the corners. You would be surprised how much they stay on the throttle in FD. It's actually quite remarkable. I think Chelsea has been famous because he's shown a couple times to where he's like literally foot flat for almost the entire run at some tracks. So it's actually a pretty common thing for a lot of these drivers to be foot flat for a lot of the run, which is kind of what makes FD such a cool thing, is how much car power these guys are making, and the fact that they're willing to put the foot to the floor and trust that the car is going to grab and hold at certain positions to keep it off a wall or to make the corner, and using the angle basically to slow down the car, and doing it that way, and using the grip to pull itself out of a corner. So I think you would be surprised to see how many of these drivers are full throttle for a majority of the run, which is kind of what you're supposed to be. At least that's what the judges are looking for, is for you to be full throttle and committed, and that's kind of how a lot of that, Denofa, for example, that's what Denofa preached a lot of the time, was trying to stay on throttle for as much as possible, as long as possible. And here Minoa does not drive like that at all, and it's completely different than the way he drives. And Taguchi kind of drives a little bit like that as well. I think Taguchi's gotten a little bit better than Minoa has when it comes to his driving as well. But it's a Japanese thing as well, just the way that driving style. But yeah. So moving on into the top 32 bracket. Obviously, I don't know who's gonna be going against who, because we don't have that. But I can always have some fun with some predictions, and curious if you guys have a top four prediction for Utah as well. And I'm just gonna take gander here at who I would guess to be a top four, and I like to make things interesting and not call the obvious winners here. So and just guys that I like that I've seen been driving well lately, guys I want to call out. Obviously Connor O'Sully's been driving great, but I think I'm gonna have Cole Richards is one of the kids that I think is he's not exactly happy with how his year's been, but he's a guy that I know can drive really well. He did really well last year at Utah. I think Cole Richards is making top four, and then on the other side of the bracket, I think we're gonna have a Corey Talaska on the other side of the top four bracket. I think he's gonna pull an upset against Cody. Another guy that's been driving a lot better. He's figured out some car suspension stuff this year, and should I think he's gonna have a good shot at this event. And then the other side of the bracket for top four, let's go Austin Mata. I really liked how he's been driving lately. I just saw his dyno graph of making over 1,000 horsepower. Um, I mean, it's a pro car, guys. Like, I feel like putting bigger tires on these cars and on the pro spec cars and letting them drive around in pro, I think would actually be really sweet. And they make the power to do it, most of them. And then on the bottom half of the back, I think I'm gonna go Tommy Lemaire. I mean, Tommy's been so good this year, and he's been hard to beat. It's kind of hard to go against him, honestly. So then I would have a final four of Austin Mata, Tommy Lemaire, and then Cole Richards versus Corey Talaska. And I think finals, I'm gonna have Cole Richards and Tommy Lemaire. And I think Cole Richards is gonna win. That's my prediction. We'll see how it goes. It never actually goes how I predict. So, unfortunately, I probably just doomed Cole there. But apologies, Cole. But let's say if that happens, Tommy Lemaire would be our prospect champ. So he's probably my pick to win it all. Let's see. I just want a quick check. Who is ahead? Again, so it's Connor O'Sullivan's ahead. So let's say they both lose in like top 16 or something. Connor gets the win. Oh man, so that means Tommy Lemaire's got to be higher than Connor. Do I pick? I mean, so I think the battle. Let's say Connor moves into top 16 and he's got to battle Cole. I think that's a really tough one. I think I'm gonna pick Tommy. I think I'm picking Tommy. Connor's gonna be mad that I didn't pick him, but I mean, he can prove me wrong. He's got the talent. He's good enough. He can do it. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna go with Tommy on this one, but it's gonna be a fun time. That's all I know. All right. I think that's prospect wrapped up. Why don't we bring up pro? All right, pro. A little bit more boring here. Pro as far as standings goes. James Dean did not lose many points because Odie ended up getting knocked out pretty early as well. So Odie made up minimal ground. Nowhere near enough to really make this a competition. Manoa's still in there for. I think Manoa's pretty much got Rookie of the Year labeled down. I mean, it'd take Connor Shannon to win the next two events. Manoa to really fall off, to really lose that. Oh, and that actually reminds me, who is looking for Rookie of the Year in Prospect? I forgot to get that. Jason, yeah, it did take him a little bit longer to post this, didn't they? We got, oh yeah, so Nick Jimenez is looking at Rookie of the Year right now, but it's going to be between him and Lewis Lanes. Unless one of these guys comes out and like wins the event, like Brian or Lee, It looks like it's a battle between Lewis and Nick. Nick's got the 2JZ powered 350Z. It's kind of blue, turquoise color. And then Lewis Lanes has got the blue Corvette. Um, so just if you guys are watching, keep an eye on those two guys because they're kind of battling out for Rookie of the Year. Alrighty, now let's go to Pro. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't need to spend a whole lot of time on the actual points. Look at Adam LZ up there in 5th place. That's pretty crazy to see. Um, do you guys predict Adam to be in even top 10 this year? You know, driving his own car, and well, honestly, he wasn't supposed to be driving all these rounds, so it's kind of crazy to see. Um, but yeah, all right. So let's pop up the bracket. All right, seeding bracket should be good. Should be some interesting battles here. So obviously we got Derek Madison getting the bye, being the lucky boy this time. We got Dimitri Brutsky versus Ben Hobson. You want to talk about some fireworks possibly happening here? It should be interesting. Obviously Ben Hobson has had car issues. Something in my eye. Has had car issues the last how many rounds now? Like a couple rounds that have just knocked him out. So it's just one of those things where he's the team, which, you know, RTR honestly is the last team that I would have thought would have car issues, honestly, with the amount of work that they put into those things. So hopefully they get that car figured out and we actually can see Ben Hobson drive like we know he can. And then Dimitri, probably been, in my opinion, the most consistent pro spec driver that's popped up into pro this year. So honestly, I think it's gonna be a really good battle. If I had to pick, I'm probably gonna go Dimitri just because I have yet to see RTR's car really, you know, back up Ben this year. Unfortunately. Um, Let's see. We got Malik. Didn't expect him to do well, but I knew he was going to go far since he's a weapon in clutch kickers and other events. And honestly, like Ben Hobson was a weapon last year in Odie's prospect car. So um, I was kind of expecting a little bit more from Ben this year, just with how good his um, just how good his car, or I guess how good his driving has been in the past. So yeah, he's definitely a guy that I thought he was going to do a little bit better this year. Jason said fired the crew chief right before Seattle RTR was destined to mess up. Yeah, I don't know the full story or context behind that. Unfortunately, I haven't found any. I haven't dug around enough to get info on that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'll from what I have heard is it's not a good atmosphere right now in that pits. There's a lot of unhappy campers, unfortunately, which you know it makes sense. They haven't had. It's weird because Dean's been off on his own doing amazing, and then you got the new kid that they're trying to get jump started, and it's kind of been a shit show. So it's one of those scenarios where it's really awkward. You know, you you got a guy that can't lose and a guy that can't win. It's the tale of two cars, really. I mean, and Dean is obviously, you know, his car is broken, caught on fire as well. It's not been a clean year, but when it comes to battles, it for the most part is held together, um, which has been interesting. And then, yeah, so let's look at the next battle. We got Federico Shrifo versus Diego Higa. So kind of surprised to see Higa in this bracket now, but I guess he hasn't had the greatest last couple of rounds. So he's going to need a battle through Federico to get back into the top 32 mix. I believe he can beat Federico. I think Diego's driving is usually pretty solid. So just one of those events where I think he's got an opportunity to bounce back and really you know do well again. Was Ray the crew chief or the tuner? I do not know, unfortunately. LZ leaving and instantly finding success has been rough for them to watch. I mean, I don't know if it's been rough for them to watch. Adam actually won an event using an RTR Mustang the year prior, so Adam had success in the Mustang. He just didn't drive all of the year before. So I don't know if it's a big it's not. I don't know if it's crushing for them. I mean, the reality is Adam was never going to be an RTR driver for forever because he's just too much of a brand to where he has his own thing he has to take care of and do and market. So it's just one of those things when you're dealing with that level of a brand that eventually he's gonna want to promote his own stuff. Um, but yeah, Malik, I agree. He has been cursed last few rounds going against some heavy hitters. And that's the thing is sometimes that's just how the bracket lies. Sometimes where you're going against these guys that are through 2 or 3 time champions. It just seems round after round that's what you get, and you can run into some ruts like that sometimes. Can someone tell Fetty to change his car? I know the 599 is a beautiful car, but and this has always been an interesting thing that guys that come over from different countries come and they drive completely new chassis and cars that they're not used to, and it never ends up going well, which is the weirdest thing. For example, you had the guy last year bring in Aston Martin like GT3 car. Um, Darren Kelly. And he is a great driver, but like if you're bringing a car that's not really originally meant to drift and then trying to make it drift, it's like you're already making it that much harder to try and compete with some of the best drivers in the world. And you're right, Federico building a car that's very expensive to fix if he hits anybody or gets hit, and it's just one of those things where why not just build an S15 and like be competitive? I mean, look at what James Dean and Peter Vistick came over in. They came over in cars that they've been driving in or had plenty of experience driving, and they mopped it up. And and then you go and you look at like Connor Shanahan. He comes in and drives a car that's proven to be competitive in the E36. So it's one of those things where I've never really understood why drivers, like for example, Zhao Barrion trying to make a C7 Corvette work when no one else has. It's just one of those things where I understand from a marketing perspective they want to get all their eyes and attention because of the car that they're bringing, but a lot of it is also like, do you want to be good or do you want to be popular? And it's one of those things where it's kind of tough to balance. And I mean, if you, for example, if you come over and bring a BMW over, then well, congrats, you're just one of every other BMW that's out there because there's a bazillion of them that are driving pro and pro spec now. But also, you're going to be a lot more competitive. So I guess it's some of it's I'm sure branding and brand deals and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it would be really interesting to see some of these foreign drivers come over and actually drive the chassis that they grew up doing well in, and seeing what their true potential actually is, because that would be kind of cool to see. We got a couple more people in the chat. We got Andy is the one that got let go from RTR. Andy was James Dean's Kutrief all the way back in 17, 18, 19 championships, and then last year through St. Louis with ATR or RTR. Gotcha. Interesting. Forest Wing is not here. Forest Wing is behind my head. So if I move my head, Forest Wing is right here. Unless Forest Wing, is he not going to be there? I don't know if Forest is going to be there. I know he was talking about trying to get his car, trying to get another car that he owns to up to spec to run FD. Since he blew the engine in his other pro car. So I'm not sure if he's going to be making it. I'm also curious on Dean Kearney. I think he's supposed to be there, but again, I don't know if Dean Kearney is going to be there. So maybe a Byron's going to be winning that battle. But if it's not, I think it's going to be really cool if they both come, honestly. Forrest and Dean, that's always going to be a fantastic battle, and a bummer that either one of them would be knocked out. And next up at the top, we got a fun battle up here. We got Dan Stuckey, Robert Thorne. Robert's been a guy that's just been killing it, and I think he's just had some bad luck here and there with some of his battle outcomes. But I think a driver that I really am surprised he's still in this seating bracket area. And Stuckey's another guy. He ended up blowing up an engine last round. So had some struggles, car problems last time. So and didn't get many practice laps. So another guy that I think just needs to get some more driving behind the wheel. And honestly, I'm really excited for this battle. Should be a really fun one. I'm gonna pick Thorne on this one just because of how Robert's been driving this year. But again, it should be a really fun battle. And then this one is going to be really interesting. You got Andy versus Zhao Burion. Zhao is always the guy that I'm really questioning his car and the reliability of it. But when he's driving well, he's driving well, and it's one of those challenges where you just don't know what you're going to get. And with Andy, Andy's been slowly growing the car, getting better each and every round. So I'm going to pick Andy on this battle, but again, and it should be another fun one. And then yeah, Kyle Hohan, Mike Power. I think this battle is Mike Power's battle to lose, especially on this track where you need the power. Um, but again, I know he's got a lot of things to fix on that car as well, and just from the crash in Seattle. So I'm hoping he's fixing all that stuff and is still able to make it out to Utah. And then I don't believe Von Gittin is coming here, so I believe this is a buy run for Rudy Hansen. So should be a solid solid is this top 8. Should be some fun battles here. Um Byron might end the streak. Who's gonna win seeding? I'm gonna get to that in just a second here. Stuckey vs Thorne is a nice little battle between the OKC neighbors. Yeah, and it's a bummer that one of them's not gonna be in top 32. That's kind of the biggest sad part about some of these battles is one of these guys is gonna lose. So, and I'm friends with a lot of them. So, always a bummer when you're friends with someone and they get knocked out in the seating bracket, and it's like, man, it's a rough weekend. I feel like Thorne is gonna win the seating bracket. I was kind of feeling that too. I think he's done really good at Utah before. Um, but let me see what else we got here. We got Higa as well. Don't forget that. Honestly, I'm thinking of finals between Thorne and Higa is who I'm picking, and it's gonna be a pretty fun one. Between that, I think I'm gonna go Higa on that win. So I'm picking Higa for the win. But yeah, I think that'd be fun. I know the chat's gonna go crazy when when that happens. So that'll be pretty fun. But yeah. Is Power's car straight after the wall hit again? I don't know. I haven't been able to talk to him after the event. I know he was pretty bummed. And he's had some rough hits this year. So I really hope it is. And I hope he makes it to Utah because that first hit in Long Beach he had this year really, really hurt his year, money wise, and he had to miss a round afterwards. So hoping everything is going all right with him, honestly. Don't worry, Vaughn. I'll submit my resume first thing in the morning. We'll have both cars on the podium. No time at all. um, and I'm going Higa. Yep. Yeah, we got another Higa vote here. They should really shuffle the bracket if Dean and Forrest don't make it. So there's a couple. You're right, Malik, and there's a couple different ways that you could go about doing this. One of the ways so a little inside baseball from St. Louis, I believe it was. So there was gonna be a buy run in top 32. They ended up staying with the buy run, I assume, to follow the rules, but one of the things FD was debating on doing was letting the highest qualified person that lost their first battle in the seeding bracket take that spot in top 32, which would have been Alec Robbins at the time. And that was actually something that they were debating to do at St. Louis. I assume they didn't do it because it's not in the rules technically, and you can't really change it halfway through. But it there's a couple different ways that you could try and do that, to where if two drivers don't show up in the seating bracket part, and you're gonna get a bye run, that you're able to either A, like you said, switch the bracket around so that it doesn't happen, or B, just give that spot to the highest qualified person that lost their first battle. So that's possibly a way that you could do it that's fair, I guess you could say. But that's possibly an option. But and the thing is I feel like this is the first year, obviously, the FD is doing this format, and I think there's a lot of opportunity because I really like the format. It's not perfect by any means, but I think there's a couple different changes you can do to this format to really like iron things out, and I think that would be one of them, just to make sure that we're not getting buy runs, because the last thing you really want is to see is buy runs in FD. You know, we got all these drivers here, and a lot of them are going to be done on the first day, and like if you can make competition more entertaining, which is the entire goal of the entire event, is to be an entertainment, factor for the fans, then I would think you'd want to do that. So that's just a possible solution on how you could fix that problem. Um, but again, and for me, if you look at this bracket and you see a buy run, I would be like looking at the prospect drivers and be like, okay, we got one buy run. The top placed prospect driver gets to go drive that buy run against Derek Madison. See, that's another way that you could do like a wild card prospect call up kind of thing, and have a little fun with it. But it's just some ideas that I'm kind of throwing around, because I really like the wild card system that DMEC uses. And DMEC has a ton of drivers. They got like 60 plus drivers at their events. And so many of them do not qualify. So it's like, and they have no problem with it. So for me, I would love to get more drivers out here driving, and just doing more competitions. So, and for example, like maybe a more cost effective way is to call up a prospect driver for that kind of buy run that you see there. But I don't know. I'm just curious. What are you guys' thoughts? I mean, it's it's not a perfect system, but I do like this system better than just straight up qualifying. Jason, I like that. Um, they have a pro track walk on Wednesday afternoon. That'll be nice to get instead of the 20 minutes before the drivers' meeting. That's true. When has FT followed the rules anyway? Well, I mean, they like to fudge the rules sometimes. I will say that. Um, I'm gonna go watch Drift Masters, sweet, or give prospect for this, or give the prospect for the slot. Yeah, Animal Z is gonna win Drift Masters. I mean, we'll see. I mean, he seems to love that E36 a lot that he built, so I'm hoping he does well. Should be fun. Seattle Steam Bracket was rough to watch. All the buy runs, I agree. Like that's kind of my whole thing, is like I hate buy runs, so I would love to see. And here's another thing too. Another thing to think about: the first day of competition in Seattle ended 2 hours early. So now think about it. If you're a fan that paid for that day and went to that event and wanted to watch some battles and practice and stuff, and it ends 2 hours early, how are you going to feel? You know? Like, how are you going to feel if you paid for a ticket to be there and the event hour ends 2 hours before it's supposed to? Like, personally, I would not be a big fan. I'd be like, well, are you going to, at least do something to semi complete this competition? So, from an entertainment perspective, I think there's a lot of opportunity to improve this format, but I really do like the format. We got C. Felt like it defeated the whole purpose of having it. Yep, good point. It's such an easy change to implement, even if it doesn't follow the current season's rules. It would greatly improve the competition. I still prefer Driftmaster's hybrid qualify and top four battle system. Yeah, Malik, and here's the one thing: the cool thing about the top four battle system of qualifying they get points for it, which really adds to the what's the word, the quality, or the really adds, like, it gives stakes. That's the word I'm looking for. It gives stakes to qualifying, and it really pushes drivers to make sure to want to push it and then actually go out and compete in battles. Because, for example, a lot of these drivers in these pro seating brackets, after they get that first win, some of them don't really want to keep putting taxing their cars and going to win this semi pointless seating bracket for the most part. I mean, sure, it helps their seating positions maybe a little bit, but um, a lot of these guys would rather just do the one run, get qualified, and then not put the damage on their cars if they don't have to. But again, I prefer this over qualifying, personally. This system will make all drivers get the battle setting. Seattle seating bracket was like only 2 actual battles. Why are we doing this instead of just qualifying? No, I mean, the idea, I think, originally was more people were going to show up or not break. Maybe they got to change some things with the seating bracket and the guys who aren't coming to all the rounds. Yeah, I mean, it's easy. It's fine if some drivers can't make it to all the rounds. It's just fill it. Just fill those spots, though. You know, if you know Vaughn's only making 2 rounds, then find drivers to fill those other 6 rounds. That's kind of my point. Is there's drivers out there that would love to drive pro for like 1 or 2 rounds that are good enough and have big enough names that would drive pro for 1 to 2 rounds, but that's all they can afford or that's all they have time for. So if you open that up as like a wild card situation, I think it would be a really cool idea, and then it would make seating bracket that much more interesting, because then you get new drivers in seating bracket every round, and then you get battles you thought you would never see. So I think there's, like I said, there's so much potential with this system. I just think there's ways to, you know, make it a lot more fun or interesting with like the wild card system, or calling up prospect drivers or something, just getting some new blood in there. And entertainment value, great chat, y'all. Take care. See you, Vision. It's great having you out here. No points, but as Wang showed, plenty of opportunities to total your car. Exactly. Von Dean Forrest Zhao not showing up to some of the runs has given so many buy runs for people. Yep, that's true. They removed the driver cap last year. No max drivers from pro. Interesting. You just have to get the license or petition in. Interesting. I didn't know that. I thought they did limit it. All right. Man, I could talk about this stuff all day. All right, let's make it to the main event. Obviously, I'm only going to compare the drivers that actually have battles, already set up. But we got Alec Robbins and Dylan Hughes. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a fun one. Alec Robbins has been driving a little bit. I think he's been driving pretty well this year. And then Dylan, unfortunately, mechanical. Yeah, because these guys saw each other last round. And Robbins beat him because Dylan broke. So a little rematch for this round. Should be a lot of fun. I'm picking Dylan on this one, I think, but should be a good battle. Then next up we got, look at Castro up here getting the old seating bracket round, and then you got James Dean, Ryan Littoral. Should be a fun battle. I mean, I don't know how you argue against James Dean, but he's going to be my pick on that one. Sorry, Ryan, but it's James Dean. And then we got Brandon Sorensen and Ken Gucci. Another battle that between the old guy and the kid. I feel like Ken's had to battle quite a few kids this year, I feel like. But actually should be a really fun battle. Ken's been driving pretty good this year. He's had a last couple rounds have not been ideal for him, and then Brandon seems to be growing more into his own this round or this year. He's been doing better and better. So I think I'm gonna go Brandon on this one, just because of their trajectories. But I really like how both of these guys have been driving this year, honestly. So it should be a good battle. And then at the bottom here, we got Rome and Connor Shanahan, the two teammates. It's going to be new car versus old car. Personally, I think the E36 drives better. So I'm going to pick Connor Shanahan on this list. Plus, it's Connor Shanahan, so it's going to be hard to argue against Connor Shanahan. But I'm pretty excited for this battle. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I hope they have a little fun on social media, like bantering with each other and stuff. Maybe you get like a reel of Rome going and sabotaging Connor's car or something in the pits. It could be kind of fun. You can play around with it. It should be a fun battle for top 32, that's for sure. All right, let's swap her over and let's go to the other side. We got Dan Burkett, Chris Forsberg. I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'm picking Dan Burkett. I really like how Dan's been driving this year. I think he's kind of got a couple hard draws this year, but I really like how Dan has been driving. And I think he's been driving really well, personally. And it should be a really fun battle against Chris. Obviously, Chris is a great driver, so honestly, can go either way. But I think I'm going to go on a ledge here, and I'm going to go with Dan. Next up, we got Frederick Osbo, Nick Novak. Another interesting one here. Interesting battle. I'm going to pick Freddie on this one, but Freddie's, Mr. Consistent. But Nick's had an interesting year. I know him and Jonathan Hurst have been matched up a couple times, and Jonathan's got the better of him. But, still a solid driver, man. So, yeah, definitely, I'm excited for that one. All right, and then here's another fun one. Hurst and Taylor Hall. I think I'm going to pick Hurst on this one, just how Hurst has been driving this year. He's been driving pretty dang well. He's made that XLR work, and even though no matter how ugly that thing is, he makes that thing drift. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just two Corvettes going after each other. But I like how Hurst has been driving this year. I think I'm going to pick Hurst over Hall, even though Hall's had a pretty solid year, honestly. And then up the bottom here is probably our best battle of top 32. And it's probably going to be our closest one, and that's going to be Matt Field versus Simon Olsen. This is going to be huge implications for either one of these guys. Whoever loses is going to really have a bummer of a weekend, honestly. Really tough battle for each of these guys in top 32. Two guys you would think you'd see in top 4. So exciting battle, but kind of a bummer. It's top 32. I'm picking Matt Field because he got into the finals last year here, and he drives his track well. But honestly, it's a toss-up, to be fair. All right, so I made it through that, and now I'm going to quick check comments. It's kind of tough to check comments and then read this at the same time, so that's why I'm kind of just running through this stuff, and then I'll come back and no, let me zoom out. And yeah, so that's why I kind of just run through this, and then I'm gonna run through your comments, because that's the only way I can really do this at the same time. All right, so we got Brandon V with old guy. Yeah, it is what it is. Von Dean, Forrest Zhao not showing up. Let's see, I read that. There has to be some local drivers that would like to have a go. I mean, I agree, Scott. I think it'd be a lot of fun you could get some old ex-FD drivers, or maybe get a Mad Mike type that wants to fly over for a round or two and drive. Like that opens up opportunities for those kinds of people to come over and drive for a round or two when you do that wild card stuff, and then you can get a bunch of visibility from all over the world of Formula Drift, which is, I think, what you would want. You'd want, guys that come from all over the world to go drive a round or two. I think it'd be really cool. All right, it would be cool if they shuffled both seeding and pro brackets after each round, it would alleviate the problem of the quality of seeding bracket battles decreasing as the season progresses. I mean, so the problem with that, Malik, is you have to not punish people for driving good, if that makes sense. You have to promote the guys that have been consistently winning their top 32 battles and not punishing them and putting them in the seeding bracket. So it's really hard to shuffle it in a way that would be not do that, if that makes sense, Malik. But I agree with shuffling battles. It's just it's a bummer when you see drivers going against each other the same time for like the third time in a row in top 32, and that's just how the math works sometimes. But yeah, I think you can't punish drivers that aren't are in the seating bracket threshold, that aren't in the seating bracket threshold, and make them go do seating bracket stuff. Rod Dan has been on fire this season. I agree, Jason. Dan has been looking good. Yep, he got screwed in St. Louis. I agree with that. Jason, nice that it's not Novak and Hurst for the fourth time. Exactly, I agree. The Odie Shanahan battle in top 16 is going to decide the championship. I'm pretty sure. Well, Malik, I think the championship's already decided. I'm pretty sure it's pretty hard for at this point Dean to lose. But maybe mathematically it just seals it for him, probably. Yeah, it should be interesting. Hurst got into the XLR and has been driving like a menace all season from the beginning. To be fair, Jason, Hurst always drives like a menace. It's just I don't know. I don't know if it's like the judges. He's just had more wins this year, but he's always been insane, and he's had some great battles in that BMW he had last year. How do we feel about FD changing the layout for Utah this year, Jason? So I kind of went over that earlier in the stream, but I personally like it because it promotes better tandems, less collision on entry because they're not driving as fast. So hopefully it makes it a little more flowy, and we get some better tandems and some closer battles than we do in the past. Because Utah, the downside of Utah is we usually have some pretty boring battles every once in a while, just because the mess ups are all seem to always happen, or the gaps seem to happen right off initiation. International views, let's go. They could bring FD Japan leaders over for a round, etc. I mean, that's a great idea too. If CFC Fire, like bringing drivers from their other Formula D series in Japan would be so sick, you know. So there's so many opportunities to grow this series that I feel like they're not taking advantage of. And I think, well, for example, I think this type of setting really promotes trying to do that and giving guys from other places opportunities to come and really test their skills, because the reality is they're going to have to go against someone who's a lower seeded person in like a Formula D bracket. So, you know, you're not battling a James Dean right off the bat. You know, you're going to battle some of the like the guys in the seeding bracket. So, it would be really interesting to see people come over and drive. Hurst anti lag is on another level. Yeah, he has some fun with his limiter and stuff. All the prospect drivers with really fast cars were disappointed. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. What are you doing? Yes, Kitty comes on the stream and wants to be the center of attention. Oh, you're clicking on stuff. Okay. Okay. Just chill. Oh, great. Now you've pressed buttons. Good job, bud. Good job. All right. What if the RTR Gremlins take Dean out in top 32? I mean, it could happen. I'm not saying you're wrong, CFC Fire, but like, to be honest, they will do anything and everything, including take everything out of Ben Hobson's car and put it into James's car to make sure that car makes it across the line. So I'm just saying, I think Dean's pretty safe here. I don't want you going over there. Yes, if you want to go underneath the desk, you can, but I don't have a lot of room for you to be jumping on my keyboard. and clicking things. All right. Now that I'm full of cat hair, it's great. Plus, I'm allergic to them, so it's a good time. Alrighty, back to the stream. Sorry, guys, for that little cat incident. I'm gonna quick pick here a finals, or at least the top four. On this side of the bracket, I'm picking Connor Shanahan and you got James Dean over here. No. So I'm gonna pick Odie Bashi's versus James Dean in top four on the left side of the bracket. You can walk over there. Just don't step on anything, please. Just chill. Chill. All right. And then on this side of the bracket, we got... Interesting. You know what? I'm going to have fun. I'm going Dan Burkett, top four, versus Matt Field. And that brings us into a James Dean versus Odie battle. I'm going Odie, Matt Field final, and then I'm picking Matt Field to win. So you guys can let me know who you got as winners here, but I got Matt Field as a winner, and should be, I don't know, probably doomed Matt Field now that I picked him, but should be a lot of fun. And like I said, I'm excited for this round with the new changes, and I'm hoping we get some really good battles and some fun, really fun tandems, honestly. But yeah, I think that pretty much ends what I had on my list of things to talk about. I'm probably forgetting stuff, but yeah, honestly, I'm excited for the round. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it's a bummer that both Rookie of the Year and basically James Dean's won for the year. Cat, sorry, my cat is laying on the keyboard, and that's why things are going insane. What are you sitting on? Sorry. All right. He's sitting on the keypad over here, and it makes it so I can't click anything. But yeah. So in Vaughn's latest video, he said that they've made some significant changes to the car doesn't fail. That's good to hear. Cat with orange skin is full combined of a mess. Yeah, well, you know, he's an orange cat and he is a menace to society. So that's literally what his job is. Dean, Connor, Osbowman, Noah. That's an interesting one. Should be fun. And then Dean or Osbow. Yeah, I mean, should be that's a good choice there too. Maybe Adam Heast might sneak. Yeah, true. I mean, the thing is he's got to get past either Field or Olsen on the other side of his bracket. I think LZ top 2 this round. All right. See some confident answers in LZ. Cool. I don't know if you saw me at Seattle, but I had the Andy Luck poster. Ha, nice, Steven. That's great. That's so funny. Got to give Andy Luck all the crap in the world. It's a good... LZ has send it to the moon tune and no balls. I'd give him a shot. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the video I posted from Seattle, but he about tried to take me out when I was on the wall in Seattle. It was pretty funny. He like tapped the wall right where I was standing. It was crazy. And I mean, he was flying too. I mean, they're going 60 miles an hour past me. It's crazy. It's fun. It's cool. Hey Steven, I hope you enjoyed Seattle. Honestly, I did. And so apart from, even though the driving wasn't great, it was still great weather. And the Seattle fans are awesome. You guys are so loud, so rambunctious. I mean, honestly, I had a great time. Great time, great people. And yeah, I mean, I'm just happy to keep rolling here. It's cool and monumental that Dean would win his fourth championship ever, and the only one to have four. But it would be cool if Odie can step up and finally get his win. Yeah, and honestly, Brandon, I agree. Like it's one of those things where I personally like seeing different people on the podium and getting their first wins. But yeah, I mean it's pretty difficult for Dean to lose at this point. LZ and Dean are going to be flying to Utah basically straight from Drift Masters. That's brutal. I mean, yeah, I agree, but they're kind of used to it. To be fair, they both fly all over the world all the time, so I think they'll be okay. Turk flew up the ranks with that win. I mean, true, yeah. Um, Turk had not been having a great season, and now he's up in the mix to try and fight for a top five position for the year. Honestly, now with a couple more good rounds, so yeah, that's the thing. I mean, and the reality is, if you're getting top five at the end of a championship in the championship at Pro One, like you're doing pretty dang good. So, um, I'm curious to see kind of how this top 10 ends up going for the last couple rounds. But I mean, you're looking. Obviously Manoa is probably the biggest surprise here, and also Adam's probably a big surprise. But I mean, kudos to those guys for getting up here and getting those points. Also, yeah, Brandon Sorensen here at ninth position. So I mean, that's pretty good for him as well. So got some new guys in the top 10 here, and it's kind of cool to see. Turk 5C spot for Adam. Yeah, I mean, like I said, really good job on Adam's part. Really impressive. You're planning on attending Drift Masters rounds next year? I wish. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where I would love to go out and film, but the reality is for like the company I work for, Link ECU, like we get all our footage from drift games out there, so there's not a big reason for me to go to Drift Masters other than to literally just go film myself for fun. So I would love to, and that's something that I really want to do one of these days. I'd love to go Poland, honestly, but it's just one of those things where it has to be right, and I don't know how, in what situation it would be right at this moment for me to go up there. But I would love to go out there and film. But yeah, man. All right. Well, I think let's see, what time is it? Holy cow! It's almost 10. Jeez. Yeah, you guys get me talking about like drifting and everything, and I just can't shut up. I guess. It's amazing how fast these streams just go for. I mean, it's almost a 2 hour stream. Like, it's crazy. And it's just me, and Herbie's not even here. This is the problem. I start talking about cars, and then it just doesn't stop. And, and that's why we're all in this industry, because we all love it. But, yeah, I mean, I appreciate it, guys. I still got over 20 people hanging out with me. Like, you guys are awesome. You guys have been here for the long haul. Again, appreciate it. We're gonna doing some new stuff in Utah. It's gonna be pretty exciting. I think you guys are really gonna enjoy it. Obviously, leave us some feedback and on what you guys think of the stuff that we're gonna be doing this weekend, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, man. Again, peace and love, and I will see you all next.